afternoon, guys. Hope you've had a good Career Fest so far. Let me hear it if you had fun.
Woohoo!
What? You don't sound very enthused. Let me hear it. Oh! Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for coming to join us for a makeup competition. The way this works is we'll give them about an hour to do their makeup. And they cannot pick up anything and do anything to like start the time. In a minute, the alarm goes off that 1 hour's up. They have to stop no matter where they're at. If they're finished, you have to stop. This is great practice if you have to work on a film set to do makeups. Because typically a lot of times when you give an AD, assistant director, they come to you and ask you, how long is it going to take you to do your makeup? Well, I need 2 hours. Well, usually about an hour into it, one of the ADs will come knocking on the door to know if you're done. You say, no, I quoted 2 hours. So they'll go away, they'll come back 10 minutes later, or you finish. No, I quoted 2 hours. And then eventually they'll come back and say, well, we need them now on the set. Sometimes you have to just let them go. But that's the way it works, because everybody's waiting on you to finish with the work, so all the rest of the crew can work and they can get in the camera. So anyway, you guys will have 1 hour. And one thing I want to do now, that I want to dispel a little myth. You guys ever seen the show Face Off? Seen that show? Okay. I want to dispel a little myth. Remember, that is a reality show, okay? What I mean by that is, you don't see the other people that is helping those contestants.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to remind everybody we have our special effects battle that begins right now on the main stage. Special effects battle. Come by the main stage and see some of the areas best special effects makeup artists at work.
Anyway, as I was saying, you don't see the other crew that's helping each of those people do their work that's not on camera. Because the things that you see don't happen that quickly. You don't turn around a piece of appliance to put on, make a mold and sculpture that quickly. I know it's a great show for people who like makeup, but it's not a great show for people who work in the industry, because what happens sometimes, you get a new director or producer thinks you can create that kind of thing in a matter of a day or two. In reality, it takes some time to create a makeup like that. By the time you do a head cast, by the time you do, do the sculpture, make the molds, run the pieces, sometimes I've done stuff that's taken me a week to 10 days to do before I can actually have something ready to put on the actor. Just remember that. There's a lot more work goes into it than what they show you. So that's sort of the thing that bothers me a little bit, to take off the amount of intense work and the talent that goes into creating what we do. Okay, so what we'll do, periodically as we go along, I'll yell out your time, just so you know where you're at. Because usually when I'm in a trailer doing makeup, I'm always looking at my watch to see if I'm getting close to what I told everybody. Am I getting my paint on in 30 minutes like I said, or am I behind still gluing the appliance down? So I'll periodically yell at a time to just give you an idea how close you're being done as you're being your time up. While they're doing that, I'll talk a little bit about film industry, about makeup artistry, maybe give you some stories. If there's no other questions, I'm going to start the timer. All right. Everybody's makeup artists, let me show you your hands. Hands up. Everybody's hands up. You guys are all ready? Okay, I'm going to start and get back to my timer and go. You have 59 minutes and 56 seconds. So, any of you guys catch the makeup demo we did earlier this morning? Anybody see that? Well, Dean and I did a makeup demo here a little earlier this morning to show you the process of doing the application of a foam appliance. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Foam, there's a couple different ways that people create appliances for makeups. There's the liquid latex, which I guess you all have seen. It's the liquid rubber that you can purchase at a Halloween store and make something. And then they have something called foam latex, which is something that you actually bake kind of like a cake. And then you have to put it into a mold and then put it into the oven and bake it. Depending on the size of the mold and the piece, it may bake for 2 hours and may bake for 6 hours. And then they pull it out and then they can do the application on it. Foam latex is a standard in the industry for doing makeups that you see. Initially, foam latex came into use by accident. It was actually a product that I believe Goodyear was trying to develop a new rubber. And there was a problem with it. The chemist, it didn't come out the way he wanted it to. And he had a friend who was a makeup artist. He said, well, I've got this new product that I can't use, but maybe you could do something with it. So he gave him some samples of it, and he started playing with it. And he actually figured out a way to make use of this foam latex, weird-looking rubber. And he used it on the first film ever the foam latex was used on. Any of you guys were here this morning, don't shout it out, but give some guesses of what movie you think that might have been when we first used foam latex. Anybody have any idea? Anybody know when you first used foam latex? I'll give you a hint. It was back in the 1930s. It was a very popular film based on a series of books written by a fellow named Frank Baum. Anybody know now? Frank Baum, know that name? The Wizard of Oz. That was the first time foam latex was used on camera. It was for the Wizard of Oz. So the Scarecrow and the Tin Man, that's when they first used that. Like I said, foam latex has to be baked anywhere from an hour to 2 hours to 6 hours. I worked on a show one time. We had full body suits that were made out of foam latex for the characters. And the mold was made out of fiberglass because obviously you make it out of stone, it'd be so heavy to move. So it was made from fiberglass. So we had these huge Hobart mixers, kind of like when bakers have these big mixers. That's how much we were mixing at a time to make these suits. And there was 2 of us, and we had injection guns that were maybe about this big. And we would have to inject the foam into this mold. And then we had a walk-in oven that was about an 8 by 8. And we would put these full molds with foam in, and they have to bake for about 8 hours before they were cured. And you may know the film. It was a very popular film at the time, kind of a weird offbeat film. It's called a movie called Tank Girl. Anybody ever see Tank Girl? You know all the kangaroo suits? I ran all the foam for the kangaroo suits for that movie. Because I was working in the shop that made those pieces for that. Anyway, my brother finally showed up. This is Dean.
Somebody said there was a makeup contest going on.
Yep, right in front of us.
Good to see everybody. So, this is awesome. This is the 2nd annual makeup contest that we've sponsored, which we're proud and happy to be a part of. We love sharing our knowledge and our experiences of Hollywood, filmmaking, and the how-tos and what not to do on makeup effects.
I didn't get a chance to tell yet, but Dean and I are both veterans of the film industry, over 30-some years, worked on a couple of hundred different movies, 600 or 700 television episodes, everything from Pirates of the Caribbean, Star Trek, just all kinds of things. We started out as young kids playing around with stuff we can find in our mother's kitchen. That's how we got started. And the story, what actually happened was, there was a movie. Anybody know where Ramseur, North Carolina is? Anybody heard of Ramseur? In the late 60s, they were shooting a movie in Ramseur, and our parents took us out of school to go watch the filming of this movie. And the day that we were there, they were doing the scene where there was a shootout, and a guy gets shot in the face, and he falls through a plate glass window. And our dad, having a construction background, noticed what he was actually using to create this wound on set, sculpting on the actor's face. And our dad did that one Halloween. We were fascinated. So that's when we got the idea, what else around the house can we use to do makeup effects? But the makeup artist at the time was actually using, anybody ever installed a toilet, a new toilet? You know that wax ring you put down first? He was actually using that wax, a fresh box of that, I should say, sculpting a bullet wound right on the actor's face. And that was our first exposure to any kind of makeup effects. And so we grew up playing with stuff and doing costume contests and making up our friends for Halloween. And that's sort of how it got started. Later on, a low-budget filmmaker came to the university when we were at school and said, I need some people who will work for cheap to work on my movie. And that's how we got our start in the film industry. You want to continue it?
Okay. After, let's see, the third film, we did 2 films with an independent producer in Kernersville, North Carolina. First one was with Lasseroux, second one was with Lasseroux. Lasseroux was king of the bullwhip back in the 50s. He'd done a ton of black and white westerns. And so he was known for the bullwhip, which eventually he went on to teach Harrison Ford how to use the bullwhip for Raiders of the Lost Ark. Too bad they didn't cast him, but give him a part in the movie. But after a couple of movies later, I did a little film called Blue Velvet with David Lynch, director David Lynch. The film required a severed ear and a lot of gunshot wounds. And I remember I went in front of David Lynch with my little book. I had a few pictures, not a lot. But he was impressed with the ear. And part of the plot of the movie was a severed ear. So today, that movie, Blue Velvet, has the large, it fills the entire screen. It's a giant close-up of the severed ear I made. So I made the severed ear, did all the bullet wounds, and did some of the beauty makeup. We had a sequence where we shot Dennis Hopper in the head with a .357 Magnum. And David wanted something to be extraordinarily realistic. David was into dead animals and weird things like that. He would shoot that because he was an artist. So his films have a unique quality to them in the composition and the way he shoots it. He's got these really unique moments with these actors. But he wanted something ultra realistic. He wanted to see the bullet enter the head of Dennis Hopper, and he wanted to see, he knew that when you have an entry wound, you have a large exit wound. And you know, on this exit wound, brains come out, skull pieces come out, hair comes flying out, because the minute the bullet penetrates the head, there's a lot of pressure built up in the skull. So that pressure, from blowing the head out, causes a bigger exit wound. And so we did all our homework on this, researched it, kind of figured out how to work it. So we made a live cast of Dennis Hopper, in which we had a plaster head. And I made a mold of that plaster head, made it silicone. Then I made a foam rubber, polyurethane foam rubber head, which I had to paint, I had to gut all the foam out. David wanted a human skull inside the head, so we managed to get a human skull. We scored it, broke it up, so when it blew up, all the pieces went out. So we put bags of fake blood, bags of latex, and whatever things we could find to look like brain matter. So, David had me go back in. The special effects guy went back and rigged explosives in the head. So we had an explosive charge that blew a hole in the front of the head, and all the rest of the explosives, there were about 12 squibs, enough to like a small explosion to blow the back of the head out. So we set 2 cameras up, one on Dennis for one shot in the entry room where the real Dennis Hopper falls back. Second part of the shot was a 3/4 angle of the fake head going back when it gets hit. We built a body frame, so the head was on a frame that we could actually manipulate. The third part of the shot was a profile shot, and it was shot at high speed, which means everything went slow motion. So when the bullet went out in the front, you saw everything come out of the back of the head. So the head was right to frame, and we had a lot of frame that was empty because David wanted to see the pieces fly across the screen. He was trying to be artistic with it, so he wanted to see all the pieces fly out. This worked beautifully in the shot. However, the ratings board who rates these movies said you can't have that in the movie. So they were only left with putting like a fraction of a second, and they framed it so you couldn't see all the brain matter flying across the screen in slow motion. Years later, they passed law, I guess the MPAA decided to change the rules and allowed more blood and guts. So years later, David did another movie with Nicolas Cage, where they did the similar thing, where they shot a guy in the head and all the brains came out. They were able to get away with it on the next movie. So David got to implement that on the next picture. So that head, I still have that head, but actually the head disappeared for about 30 years. Last year we found that head. I should have brought it. I'll bring it tomorrow. If you're back here tomorrow, I will bring the head that we use at Dennis Hopper. We found it in a box last year. We took it away for 30 years. I'll bring it and put it in the booth so you can see it. So if you go to the Hollywood Horror Show booth tomorrow, I'll bring the head along and see the head. But we found it. I still had the jacket, because Frank Booth was his character's name. He still has the jacket. So I have all that. All the wires are sticking out of it. The blood is still all matted in the hair. I'll bring that tomorrow. So that's my Blue Velvet story. So on Blue Velvet, I met some other people. I'll tell you how it works in Hollywood. How when you meet people, that's why they hear the old adage, it's who you know, not what you know. So I meet a guy who's David Lynch's assistant, who then tells me, man, you got to come to LA, all the work is here. You got no work in California, you're very talented. What are you doing in North Carolina? Come to Los Angeles. So lo and behold, about 6 months later, I moved to LA and get an apartment. I get a job right away on a low budget movie. I call Starr and say, Starr, I got this job, I'm gonna do this movie. It's with Jeffrey Combs. Jeffrey Combs in the movie Reanimator, and another actor by the name of Wings Hauser. And so we do all the effects on the movie. I'll tell you this story. We do, what's the Starr? Where are you here? What's the name of that movie we did? Well, this was the early movie we did with Jeffrey Combs. So we got Jeffrey Combs, Reanimator had come out a few years earlier. It was a science fiction movie. So we're working with these producers. We don't know these guys. They're making a low budget movie. The budget's about $600,000. Billy Joel's manager finances half of the movie, and these guys named the Dark Brothers finance the other half. So we didn't know who these guys were. So we make this movie. It turned out very well. And then I met somebody else who then introduced me to somebody who worked for Roger Corman. So pretty soon now we're working in Venice Beach in a small place that used to be a lumber mill for Roger Corman. So a bunch of younger people just like us, straight out of film school, straight out of Stanford, and some of the other local LA colleges. But we were there working with Mike Elliott, who went on to produce all of Rob Zombie's movies. He's a Universal producer. The DP that we were working with was Janusz Kaminski. Now Janusz, if you haven't heard Janus's name, anybody seen Saving Private Ryan? Anybody seen Schindler's List? Schindler's List, okay. So Starr and I were working at Roger Corman's studio, making $500 a week. Janusz was making about $250 a week. Janusz was working as the camera loader. He was loading film in the camera and doing slate. You know the clapboard? Take one, take two. So he was the clap guy. He had the clapper. He loaded film in the camera. So at that time, we were all trying to get the next position. I was trying to act in Roger's movies. Starr was acting in Roger's movies. We were trying to get to the next level. And so Janusz was begging Roger to shoot a movie. He wanted to be a director of photography. That was his dream. So he went off and directed a low-budget movie that looked horrible. You couldn't see anything. So Roger finally gave him a chance. We did a movie called The Terror Within and a movie called Watchers. Janusz was the DP. They called him the DP, director of photography. We had a great time. Janusz was actually going to come to North Carolina with Starr and I to shoot a Civil War movie, a low-budget Civil War short, and we ran out of time. We went on to another movie. But Janusz, we did like 3 movies together. Then Starr and I got on some bigger movies, so we went and worked on some bigger shows. Janusz kind of disappeared. So about a year later, I hear about a movie called Schindler's List, okay? So, and then I find out Janusz shot Schindler's List. I'm like, how in the world did Janusz go from making $300 a week on a low-budget movie to Steven Spielberg? So I'll tell you the story. So Janusz had a girlfriend.
Break 1 second. 43 minutes, guys, 43 minutes.
Janusz had a girlfriend who was an actress. And so this actress had a portion of the Schindler's List script. And he said, I want to audition for it and put myself on tape. He says, I'll do better than that for you, darling. I will put you on camera. I'll shoot it on film. I'll art direct it. So he knew the scene. He read the script. He put her in the scene. He set dressed it. He shot it in black and white because he knew Spielberg wanted black and white. So he shot it in black and white, put it, transferred it to VHS tape, sent it to Spielberg's office at Universal. About a month later, she gets a phone call. This is a story that I heard through his crew guys. She gets a phone call and she thinks she got the part. His girlfriend thinks she got the part. So she's all excited. Spielberg's office is calling. They want to talk to the person who shot it. She said, well, that's my boyfriend. Where's he at? He's here. So he gets on the phone with Spielberg. He says, can you come down to my office? I have a movie I want to do. And I like what you did. That's how fast your life can change if you get in front of the right person at the right time. So that kind of happened to us. We got to LA, we met some people, then you met somebody else, and introduced somebody else, and they like you. And half the battle of getting a job in LA or on the movies is somebody likes you. Your personality, you're easy to get along with, you show up on time. Half the way of keeping your job is showing up on time. And having the drive and the guts to stick in there. Janusz gets the job. He takes his entire crew who worked on these low-budget movies with him to Poland to go shoot Schindler's List. Next thing you know, Janusz has got an Oscar. So Janusz his career kept climbing and climbing and climbing. So he stayed with Spielberg. So about 5 years ago, me and Starr were doing the haunted house. I get a phone call. Hey, we're working on a movie called Lincoln up in Virginia, and Spielberg's directing. Of course, I figured if Spielberg's directing, Janusz is probably shooting the movie. So we pack up our stuff, we leave the haunt for 3 weeks to go work with Spielberg in Virginia on Lincoln. Of course, we get there, all our pals and buddies that we work with in LA are all there. 50 makeup artists are there. Everybody who's anybody that does makeup was there doing makeup.
There were so many people to make up, they had to set up circus tents in order to accommodate enough spaces for people to work. So it was like a factory. There was, I think, most we did one day, we did 450 people. And that's beard work, blood, all kinds of things.
So we're there, early start at 4 a.m. getting everybody ready. Because they're doing the senators in Congress, all those scenes with all the congressmen in the House, all having these meetings and talks. And we of course have a battlefield scene, okay? I thought, because we work on low budget too, working on low budget means we're really fast, really hard, no time to get anything done, and everything's in a hurry. So I thought here would be different. I worked on a bunch of, we both worked on a ton of big movies. Time goes by real slow. Pirates of the Caribbean, they take their time to get every shot. They shoot a quarter page a day, if even a quarter page a day. And low budget or even average budget movies, you shoot 10 pages a day. There you shoot very little. They take all the time they need to get it done right. Spielberg was in a hurry to get everything shot. So we have all these bodies. In the opening scene, one of the scenes in the battlefield, Lincoln's on a horse. He rides up, he looks down at all the bodies in the battlefield that just happened. So we spent 2 days getting all these dead bodies ready, and it's raining. And not only is it raining, they're creating more rain because the scene takes place in the rain. So we're all soaked to the gill and waiters trying to get through to make our day. And Janusz is directing the film. Now the first thing they told us that Steven didn't like to have makeup artists on set. He wanted everybody out of the way because he's working with Daniel Day-Lewis. And right now you have to call Daniel Day-Lewis Mr. Lincoln because he's a method actor. But
he stayed in character.
Stayed in character the whole time. So it was pretty amazing. So we get there, and Janusz, his personality is very bubbly, very friendly. loves everybody, has a good time.
And very loud, very loud.
Very loud, having fun on a Spielberg movie. Totally opposite Steven. So we get there, and the department head of the makeup department has done about the last 10 movies with Spielberg. So everybody's nervous that if they do the wrong thing, they're going to get fired. Because on a movie of that level, the pressure is so high, you're afraid to make a mistake. You can't make a mistake. You can't be late. You can't do a makeup wrong. You've got to say yes or no, sir. If they say, come here, you go there. You run to get to your position. It's so intense, you have no idea on what it's like to work on a shoot movie. Big difference. So we get there, we're told everything's tense, they're behind schedule, it's raining, Steven wants to get this shot right now. Hurry up and bring these bodies up there. We're throwing these bodies on the golf carts, we're riding up there, it's pouring down raining. I'm throwing bodies off in the mud, and I fall down twice, I think. I got soaked in mud, trying to get these bodies in position. And Janusz, who hadn't seen me in 15 years, yells out my name on set. Oh my God, I'm gonna get fired. Dean, what are you doing, man?
Of course, all the other makeup people are looking at us, the crew's looking at us.
Because they're all looking at us like, how does he know Janusz, and how does he know Steven? And is my job secure because they know that guy? So that's what we're thinking. So I'm scared to death we're gonna get released from the show because we know the DP who can make us, put us up here in 2 seconds. Anyway, we had a great time, but he's yelling out my name, and the set is so quiet. I've never been on a set so quiet. It's like almost being in church. Nobody talked, you whispered, you went somewhere else to have your conversation, and it was that kind of movie. I've never been on the level of that kind of movie. But cut to the screening. I got to go to the screening of Lincoln at the Directors Guild, and Spielberg said the same thing. It was just like being in church. The only loud person on set was Janusz, and even he was quiet. But that was kind of fun. But that week, working in this business is interesting. You meet all kinds of people, and you meet all kinds of people at different times, and celebrities on top of that. So I was at a screening for Lincoln. I got to watch Lincoln in black and white. And so I was there waiting in the lobby, and they were screening Skyfall. And I didn't know that they were screening another movie. And so the Skyfall director was there on stage, and I'm walking around the Directors Guild lobby, and there's black and white photographs of all the old directors and all the old movies. I see somebody walking around, he's looking at the photographs. He's over at this side of the room, and I'm walking this way, and he's walking this way. We're kind of looking at the pictures, and finally, I get up next to the final picture, and I look at the guy who I hadn't even noticed, and it's Bond. It's James Bond. It's our actor from the Daniel Craig standing next to me. I said, holy cow! I'm in the lobby with Daniel Craig, and he's about to go in and do a Q&A on Skyfall. And so I thought that was crazy. But so I didn't bother to say anything. I was too nervous. Even though we've been years in this business, working with Johnny Depp, working with all these guys, to see someone new who you really respect their work, it's always a shake-up for a little bit. You always go like, oh my God, it's Daniel Craig. But we still do that to this day. But after you get to know these guys, just like regular people, and Johnny Depp is the nicest guy ever to ever work with. He's such a humble guy. I worked on Pirates 4 in Hawaii, and Johnny was often late to set. And it wasn't because he was just late. He was always on time. But I tell you what, we were shooting, the Black Pearl was changed to look like the Queen's Revenge. And we were at some off the beaten path dock on the other side of Maui Island. And we had a 6 o'clock crew call. We had to wait till it got dark to start getting on the boat to shoot. And so I set up a barricade, and a few people showed up the first day of shooting because they heard Johnny Depp was there to get his autograph. About 5 days later, there were 2,000 people lined up to see Johnny Depp get out of the SUV and walk to set every day or every night. And so he took the time to shake everybody's hand, get a picture. So by the time he got out of his car to set, it was like an hour and a half. But he took that time to acknowledge his fans, to sign autographs and get pictures. And every day on the set, before he walked on the soundstage, there was somebody with a disability that he had made sure that somebody was there, like a small child, to come and meet and greet and get to shake hands with Johnny Depp, Jack Sparrow. So, which was exciting. Incidentally, his kid is named Jack, by the way. So he was on set one day. But anyway, we have lots of stories about lots of actors and all the stories of all the films that we worked on. So we're just taking up some time here while this goes on. Anybody have any questions for us? Anybody been to the Hollywood Horror Show? 2 people. You guys need to go this year.
Come by our booth and get a flyer from us, and you can come see us. This year will be our 32nd year doing the show. It's about 11,000 square foot inside and outside. It's very realistic. It's the closest you ever come to working or being on a film set. Everything looks like it looks. I mean, the stones look real. We have a full-size pirate ship with a pirate village. We have an Aztec kind of archway with a tomb and a big skull and mad scientist lab and a graveyard and just tons and tons of stuff. A wrong turn area. So come see us.
We're also casting right now, so if you're interested in being in the show, part of the crew, please come see us at the booth.
Yeah, we have a sign-up sheet on the table. You can put your information down.
We have anywhere from 60 to 100 actors a night. If you're interested in working makeup, interested in working props, set dressing, we start this summer right away. We have 2 films we're planning to shoot this year, so we often take everybody that's involved with our shows to work on our film projects.
Tonight at 8 o'clock, we're showing one of our movies, Dark Awakening, which stars Lance Henderson, who was Bishop in Aliens. It's a great little story. Dean wrote the story, I produced, he directed. We shot it in Alamance County. Lance Henderson plays a priest who has some very deep, dark secrets that he has not told anyone.
Any questions? Yes, sir. Come down there for a second.
Can hear you. Come up. Wizards of the Lost Kingdom, yes. I'll tell you a very funny story about Wizards of the Lost Kingdom. You know, Wizards of the Lost Kingdom was a low-budget movie that Roger Corman did that we did the makeup before. There was no Wizards of the Lost Kingdom 1. There was only a 2. But the interesting thing about that, David Carradine, everybody know David Carradine, Kung Fu? Okay, so the last night of filming with him, we were trying to get the last shots with him after lunch. Got ready to shoot, and guess what? He had misplaced his dentures, which he had dentures, and he could not find them. So before you knew it, the entire crew was scouring the studio trying to find his dentures so we can get a shot. Looking everywhere, couldn't find it. One of the stunt guys finally went up to David, just trying to refresh his memory. He said, "David, do you remember when you had them last?" He said, "Well, I was eating, and I don't remember." I said, "Well, obviously we can't get a shot because, you know, it would not match everything else we shot." But finally, he played a kind of a sword and sorcerer kind of guy, and he always wore this big cape, and he had these big cuffs on his cape. And just so happened the stuntman looked down, and his dentures were stuck in the cuff of the cape. And this was like an hour and 15 minutes, everybody looking for him, and we found him and got him in, and we got the shot. He went back to ask, he said, "Well, David, how come you have dentures anyway?" He said, "Well, I had a little accident one time." He said, "I was at a hotel, I think he said on the 2nd floor, there was a pool down there, and I decided that I wanted to jump in the pool." "Well, what happened?" He said, "Well, I guess I should have checked just to make sure it had water in it before I jumped." So that's how he lost it. So anyway, but David Carradine was a great guy. He was very funny, a great actor, and it was fun to. I got to work with him about a year before he passed away on another feature film, and he remembered me, believe it or not.
Shot in North Carolina, wasn't it?
Yeah, shot here in North Carolina, and I remember. This is what's funny about it. You know how stars pretty much can do what they want to do. Well, the last night of shooting him for the film, I had to come and do this elaborate makeup on him because he gets killed in the movie. So I did this makeup, and when I got done, he had this CD. He had a band, and he had just finished a new album, and he had not heard the cutting yet. So he said, let's put this in and listen to it. We're in the makeup trailer. Let's put this in and listen to it. So we played it. We played one song. He said, that's pretty good. He said, I want to listen to the next one. So he listened to the next one. Well, the second day, AD comes in and said, David, ready for you on set. He said, okay, I'll be here in a minute. So he goes out. About 15 minutes go by. They come back. We're ready for you on set. I said, I'll be there in a second. Well, at this point, he decided he wanted to listen to all the songs. So he sat there and listened to all the songs before he went to set, because what were they going to do? You know, he wanted to do that before he went to set. So, and the music was really great. He played the guitar and sang, and it was really good. So.